Hello, my name is Amara West, and once, not too long ago, I was a dancer people actually came to see. Back home, before the noise, before the neon, I lived in a city that smelled of jasmine and old wood. My mornings began with the click of anklets and the whisper of silk brushing against marble floors. I danced in temples, in auditoriums, on stages where even the air listened. Every movement had meaning. Every turn was a prayer. I thought beauty was eternal, that if you moved gracefully enough, you could keep the darkness away. I was wrong. It started with a headline, then came whispers, and then came silence. The night it all ended, I remember standing backstage, palms sweating, heart pounding like a trapped bird. The curtains were still drawn, and the air smelled of incense and panic. My name echoed somewhere in the crowd. Once a chant, now a warning. Someone had leaked a video, something private, something that wasn't meant to be seen, and it spread faster than I could breathe. My father wouldn't look me in the eye. My dance academy asked me to take some time away, and the city, my beautiful city, turned its face from me like I was a shadow that didn't belong in daylight. So I ran. I packed 2 dresses, my passport, and my anklets. I didn't even take my trophies. They already felt like lies. I told myself I'd rebuild somewhere no one knew my name. Somewhere my past couldn't follow me. That's how I ended up in Los Angeles, a city that burns brighter at night than my home ever did in daylight. But the light here doesn't heal you. It exposes you. My first job was at a diner, then a cleaning gig. But one night, while I was wiping tables in a bar that smelled of whiskey and rain, the music changed. Heavy bass, metallic rhythm, and something inside me responded before my mind could stop it. My hands followed the beat. My body remembered. That's when the manager saw me. He smiled, not the kind of smile that comforts, but the kind that measures. He said, "You ever thought about dancing for real money?" I said no. He said, "Think again." And that's how it started. Not with a dream, with a compromise. At first, I hated it. The lights were too bright, the air too heavy, the stairs too sharp. There was no poetry in the movements, just currency disguised as rhythm. But then, something strange happened. One night, while the crowd cheered for someone else, I closed my eyes mid-performance. For a moment, I imagined I was back on that marble floor, bare feet against cool stone, my mother's voice humming in the corner. My body moved differently, not for them, but for me. And when I opened my eyes, the crowd was silent, watching, breathing with me, applauding like they actually saw something real. That night, I walked home under flickering streetlights, and for the first time since I left home, I didn't feel ashamed. I felt alive. But the thing about rebirth is, it never comes free. A week later, I found a message, slipped under my apartment door. No name, no address, just a single line. "You can't outdance your past." I froze. My throat went dry. The handwriting, it was familiar, curved, precise, almost elegant. It looked like the signature my old instructor used to leave on every competition certificate. I told myself it couldn't be him. It had to be a prank. Someone from the bar, maybe. But the next morning, when I turned on my phone, a new email had arrived from an unknown address. The subject line said, "Still graceful, aren't we?" Attached was a photo, me, performing at the bar 2 nights ago. The same pose I had used in my final classical performance back home. It felt like a mirror, one life bleeding into another. Someone was watching me, someone who remembered everything I tried to forget. I wanted to go to the police, but what would I tell them? I used to be someone else, and now someone knows? So I stayed quiet. I deleted the message, but I couldn't delete the feeling that every light I danced under now hid eyes I couldn't see. Since that night, the music doesn't sound the same. The lights flicker differently. Sometimes, between beats, I swear I hear a camera click, soft, deliberative, close. Maybe I'm paranoid, or maybe the past I buried is digging itself out. Last night, after my performance, I stayed back to lock up. The bar was empty, only the low hum of the speakers left. I walked past the mirror wall, and for a moment, I thought I saw another reflection beside mine, a shadow, still, patient, waiting. But when I turned around, there was no one, just the faint smell of jasmine, the same scent that used to fill the temple halls where I once danced. That's when I realized, no matter how far you run, the stage always finds you. And sometimes, it doesn't want an encore. It wants revenge. And I've spent half my life dancing for peace, and the other half running from ghosts. But lately, I can't tell which one I'm performing for anymore. They say, cities like Los Angeles never sleep, but they don't tell you that's because people like me keep them awake. And every night, I dance so the world doesn't hear me scream. The bar I work in sits between a tattoo parlor and a pawn shop, a place where stories go to die. The lights are dim enough to hide the shame, and the music loud enough to drown confessions. No one cares who you were before you walked in, only how well you can make them forget. It should have been perfect for someone trying to disappear. But lately, someone's been trying to find me. The first time I saw him, I thought it was just the lights playing tricks. A man in a dark coat, standing in the corner of the crowd, still, focused, almost waiting. He didn't drink, didn't move, didn't clap, just watched, the kind of stare that makes your heartbeat stumble mid-rhythm. When I looked again, he was gone. But I swear, I could still feel his eyes on my back, like fingerprints pressed into my skin. That night, when I got home, there was another envelope. No photo this time, just a single jasmine petal. I don't know why, but I couldn't breathe for a moment. That scent, it didn't belong here. It belonged to another life, another country. To the night before, everything burned. The next day, I asked around at the bar if anyone saw him. Marco, the bartender, said, "Yeah, tall guy, didn't order anything. Thought he was a cop." I laughed it off, but inside, I froze. A cop? There were police involved. The night I ran away. If anyone reopened those files, if anyone connected the names, I'd be finished. That night, I danced harder than ever. My movements weren't for the crowd anymore. They were a warning, a message to whoever was watching. I'm not afraid, but the truth is, I was terrified. Every noise felt louder. Every face felt familiar. Every mirror seemed to move half a second too late. A few nights later, after my last set, the manager told me a private client had requested me for a closed performance. High pay, no questions. Something about it felt wrong, but rent doesn't wait for intuition. He handed me an address, scribbled on a napkin. Warehouse 19, 11:30 p.m. The warehouse was on the edge of the city, where the streetlights flicker out and the air smells like burnt metal. When I stepped inside, there were no chairs, no stage, no crowd, just an empty floor and one spotlight waiting for me. The same kind of light that used to shine on me back home, only colder. Hungria. I called out. No answer. I almost turned back when I saw it. A speaker in the corner, small and cracked, and from it came the sound of a tabla. My old rhythm, my old world. Then a voice, distorted, male, but calm, whispered through the static. Dance, Amara. Let's see if you still remember who you were. My blood ran cold. That name, my real name, wasn't on any paperwork here. I changed it months ago. Only someone from my past could have known. I wanted to run, but something in me refused to give them that satisfaction. So I danced, not for beauty, not for art, but for survival. Every spin felt like defiance. Every breath like a countdown. And as I moved, the voice laughed, low, steady, almost proud. When the music stopped, the spotlight shut off. I stood in the dark, heart hammering, the silence pressing down like a hand over my mouth. Then, from the shadows, the same man stepped forward. The coat, the eyes, the stillness, and in his hand, a phone. The screen glowed faintly, showing a paused video, me, performing my final classical piece, the one from the night before everything fell apart. "How did you get that?" I asked. My voice didn't sound like mine anymore. He didn't answer. He just smiled, slow, knowing, and said, "Your past has a price, Amara, and you haven't paid it yet." Then he dropped the phone on the floor and walked away. The screen stayed lit, looping the last second of that old video, my smile, frozen mid-spin. I watched it until it faded out. I didn't go home that night. I walked for hours through the noise of the city, the sirens, the laughter, the music leaking from clubs. None of it touched me, because for the first time, I realized the truth. I wasn't being haunted by memories. I was being hunted. When I finally made it back to my apartment, the door was ajar. Nothing looked stolen, but on my table, right beside the broken anklets I hadn't worn in months, there was a single Polaroid, me, dancing, taken from the warehouse. On the back, a message, "You were perfect. Don't stop now." I tore it apart, burned it in the sink, and watched the ashes curl into the air. But ashes don't lie, they linger. And as the smoke rose, I saw my reflection in the window, tired eyes, trembling hands, and behind me, a figure in the street, standing under the flickering light, looking up at my window, still, waiting, watching. Some nights, I still hear that tabla, soft, slow, calling me back to a life I swore I buried. And this city might have saved me, but it's also where my past came to dance again. I didn't sleep for 2 nights after the warehouse. Every sound felt personal. Every silence felt staged. It's strange how fear can turn even your heartbeat into background noise. And I think someone wants me to remember what I've spent years trying to forget. The 3rd morning after it happened, I found it. A black envelope, sitting on my doorstep. No name, no address, just black. The kind of black that doesn't reflect light, like it was painted with grief. I almost didn't touch it. But curiosity is just another form of weakness. Inside was a single flash drive. No note. I plugged it into my laptop, hands shaking. The screen flickered, static for a few seconds. Then an old video file appeared. It was me, back home, performing in my final classical competition. I recognized the stage, the music, even the tremble in my smile. But halfway through the performance, something changed. The camera angle shifted. Suddenly, I wasn't the only one in frame. There was another dancer, her, a girl named Nisha, my best friend, my shadow, the one I swore I'd never talk about again. She was smiling in that video, the way she used to before everything went wrong. And then, without warning, the lights in the video exploded. Screams filled the hall. Smoke, shouts, the footage cut to black. My hands went cold because that night, the night the fire broke out, was the same night I ran. Everyone thought it was an accident, that a stage light short-circuited. But Nisha didn't survive, and I never told anyone the truth about what happened before the flames. I tried to steady my breath, but as I stared at that frozen frame, her smile, her eyes, I noticed something. In the corner of the video, barely visible, a reflection in the mirrored wall, a man, tall, dark coat, watching. It was him. Islam mi laptop shoot. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, numb, because this wasn't a coincidence anymore. Someone had that footage for years. Someone who knew everything. And they were here. The next day, I went to work like nothing happened. Because when you live in fear long enough, pretending becomes survival. But halfway through my shift, a new performer joined the lineup, a woman I'd never seen before, tall, graceful, confident, and when she danced, her style was identical to mine. Every step, every hand gesture, every rhythm I thought, only I remembered. I watched from the wings, my stomach twisting. She was me, or someone pretending to be. After her set, she came up to me, her perfume, jasmine, her eyes, cold, and she said, "You inspired me. I've seen all your performances." I forced a smile. "You must be mistaken." But she leaned in close and whispered, "No, Amara, I never forget my teachers." My blood froze. She walked away, leaving behind a small black card, a symbol printed on it, a lotus flower, half burned. That was Nisha's stage mark. We used to draw it on our wrists before every show. That night, I went home shaking. There was a note under my door again. It said, "The truth dances in circles. Don't stop now." I didn't know what was happening anymore, whether Nisha was dead, or if someone was pretending to be her, or if guilt was finally catching up. But I couldn't ignore it any longer. So I did something reckless. I replied. I wrote a note. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" And I left it outside my door. The next morning, it was gone. In its place, another black envelope. Inside was a single photo, the same warehouse, but now, painted on the floor, in thick white chalk, the lotus symbol. The caption at the bottom read, "One final performance." For the first time since I arrived in this city, I felt like I couldn't breathe without being watched. Every window, every mirror, every reflection was a threat. I stopped dancing, stopped going out. But fear doesn't protect you. It just slows you down for whoever's chasing. One night, there was a knock on my door. 3 slow taps, then silence. When I opened it, nothing but an anklet lying on the floor. Mine, the one I'd lost the night of the fire. The metal was blackened, twisted, like it had been pulled from ashes, and tied around it was a red ribbon, a warning, or an invitation. That's when it hit me. The fire, the footage, the shadow, the lotus. Someone was recreating my past, piece by piece, turning it into a performance I couldn't escape. And I was running out of acts. I turned off all the lights that night, sat in the corner with my phone light on, staring at the door. And just before dawn, I saw it, a shadow pass under the crack, slow, deliberate, followed by the faintest jingle of anklets, the same rhythm Nisha used to dance to. I don't know if it's her, or someone who wants me to believe it is, but the message is clear, that this isn't about revenge anymore. It's about repetition. Someone's forcing me to relive my own story until I break. And tonight, when the music starts again, I don't know if I'll be the one dancing or watching. They say when you've got nothing left to lose, you stop being afraid. That's not true. You just learn to dance with your fear. And tonight, I'm dancing with mine. It started 3 nights after the last envelope. I was sitting in my dark apartment, staring at the ashes of my burned anklet, when my phone buzzed. An unknown number, 1 message. The curtain rises at midnight. Come alone. Attached was a location pin. Warehouse 19, the same place where this nightmare began. I should have ignored it. But when guilt becomes your religion, confession becomes irresistible. So I went. The city looked different that night. Quieter, almost expectant. Even the neon lights seemed to flicker in rhythm, as if keeping time for me. When I reached the warehouse, the door was already open. Inside, a single path of candles led toward the center of the floor, and there, drawn in white chalk, was the lotus symbol, Nisha's mark. Fresh, perfect, waiting. I stepped into the circle, and the door slammed shut behind me. A spotlight flicked on, and the same tabla rhythm began to play through the speakers. Slow, hypnotic, familiar. Then a voice echoed, the same distorted tone from before. "Dance, Amara. The truth deserves an audience." I looked around, nothing but shadows and silence, but the rhythm pulled at me, like muscle memory rising from the grave. So I began to move. At first, I danced cautiously, my breath shallow, but with every step, the world around me blurred. Time unraveling, reality folding in on itself. I saw flashes of my past, the stage, the lights, the crowd, and Nisha beside me, smiling, alive. And then, the fire, the smell of burning silk, the screams, her voice, calling my name. Before it was swallowed by smoke, I stopped mid-turn, gasping. The lights in the warehouse flared, blinding white, and when they dimmed, she was there, standing across the circle, dressed in the same costume she'd worn that night. Eyes dark, anklet gleaming. Nisha, or what looked like her. My throat went dry. This isn't real, she smiled. Slow, deliberate, maybe not. But neither are you anymore. I stumbled back. You're dead. Her voice was soft. You made sure of that? I shook my head, tears burning my eyes. No, it was an accident. I tried to help you, but she stepped closer. Did you? Or did you run when it was easier than facing what you'd done? Her words hit like glass, because deep down, I remembered. That night, before the fire, we fought about a solo performance, about betrayal. She found out I had bribed the judges. I told her she'd never make it without me. She said she'd expose me. And minutes later, the flames started. I ran, and I never went back. Now, standing in that warehouse, it all came flooding back. The guilt, the shame, the sound of her anklets melting in the fire. I whispered, "What do you want from me?" Her smile didn't reach her eyes. The same thing you wanted, a stage. The candles around us flickered wildly as the music grew louder. Behind her, shapes moved in the dark, silhouettes of people, faces glowing faintly from phone screens. They were recording. The audience, perform. The voice echoed again from the speakers. Show them what redemption looks like. The beat shifted from classical to electric, tabla to bass, the sound of both worlds colliding. And in that chaos, I understood. This wasn't a dance. It was judgment. So I danced. For her. For them. For me. Every motion was confession. Every breath was apology. Tears mixed with sweat as I spun faster, the lights burning through my skin. And then she joined me, mirroring my every move, step for step, perfectly in sync. We moved like reflections caught in the same mirror, the past and present colliding in rhythm. And for a moment, it was beautiful, like we'd never fought, like the fire never happened. Then, as the final beat struck, the spotlight cut out. Darkness, silence. When it came back on, she was gone. All that remained was the lotus mark beneath my feet, smeared with ash, and across the wall, written in red light, projected from a hidden beam, were the words, "Now the world knows." I looked around. The audience was gone. The phones had disappeared, but I could still feel their eyes, their judgment, their whispers crawling through the dark. And then I heard footsteps from the shadows. Him, the man in the coat. He stepped forward, slow, deliberate, a faint smile on his lips. Beautiful, isn't it? The truth, when it finally performs. I stared at him. Why? Why are you doing this? He tilted his head. Because she asked me to. He pulled something from his coat pocket, a burned letter, its edges blackened. I could still make out the handwriting, Nisha's, the signature, the date, one day before the fire. It said, "If anything happens to me, she'll know why." I felt my knees give way. He dropped the letter at my feet and turned to leave. But before he did, he whispered, "Every dancer has a finale, Amara. Yours just went viral." He disappeared into the dark, and outside, I could already hear it, the sirens, dozens of them. When I stepped out, the street was filled with flashing lights, red and blue. Someone had called them, and in the distance, I saw the faint glow of phones held up high. The video, it was already spreading. Every lie I'd buried, every truth I'd run from, all of it, now a performance for the world to see. I don't know who uploaded it. Maybe him, maybe her, maybe me, in a way. Because maybe the truth isn't something you confess. Maybe it's something that confesses you. And tonight, I danced my past back to life. They say truth sets you free, but they never tell you what it costs. And this is my final bow. The video spread faster than fire. By sunrise, my face was everywhere. On screens, in news feeds, on phones held by strangers who suddenly thought they knew me. The fallen dancer, the liar, the murderer. Hey, everyone had a title for me now. The footage from the warehouse, our final performance, had gone viral overnight. Millions watched, commenting, dissecting every step, every look. Some called it art. Some called it confession. No one asked if it was real. The police came to the bar the next morning. I didn't resist. When you've already been burned once, there's nothing left to hide behind. They asked questions about the fire, about Nisha, about the man in the coat. I told them everything. The fight, the letter, the envelopes, the performance. They took notes, recorded, and then one of them said quietly, "Miss West, there's no record of anyone named Nisha Patel in that academy. Not in the last 10 years. I laughed, a sound that cracked halfway through. "Check again," I said. "She was real. I saw her. She danced with me." They looked at each other, and that's when I realized maybe I didn't just lose control of my story. Maybe I lost my mind with it. They released me that night. No charges, no proof, just the ghost of a girl no one else remembered. But the video didn't stop. It kept playing, everywhere, every upload, every repost, the same caption under it, "The Past Life." People thought it was a performance piece, a tragic story told through dance. They didn't see the truth bleeding through the rhythm. They saw beauty in my breakdown, applause in my confession. And maybe that's what I deserved, to become entertainment for the world that forgot what pain looks like in motion. A week passed, then another. The noise died down, but the silence that followed was worse. I stopped going out, stopped answering calls, until one night I heard it again. That sound, anklets, faint, familiar, coming from the hallway. I opened the door. Nothing, but on the floor was another envelope, not black this time, white, clean. Inside was a folded photo, a still from the warehouse video. Me and Nisha, side by side, mid-spin. Only this time, she was smiling straight into the camera, and under it, in neat handwriting, "Now we're finally perfect." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat there, staring at that picture, and for the first time in years, I smiled, because maybe that's what she wanted. Not revenge, not justice, just recognition, to be remembered, even if it was through me. The next morning, I went back to the bar. They changed the sign. New name, new dancers. But when I stepped inside, the stage was the same floor, the same light. I walked to the center, took off my shoes, and let my bare feet feel the wood one last time. And I danced. Not for them, not for forgiveness, but for her, for us. Every move told the story the fire tried to erase. Two girls who dreamed of perfection, two hearts broken by ambition, two souls trapped in rhythm. And when the final note faded, I whispered, "Are you watching now?" The lights flickered once, then twice, and somewhere, faint, distant, came the sound of anklets answering back. It's been months since that night. The video still circulates, now called The Lost Dancer. Critics write essays about it. They say it blurs the line between reality and performance. Maybe they're right, because sometimes I forget which one I'm living in. I still dance, not on stage, not for money, just in my apartment, in the dark. When the city sleeps and no one's watching, that's when I feel her the most. In the air, in the rhythm, in the silence between beats. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's what redemption really is. Not peace, but acceptance. Learning to live with the ghosts that won't stop dancing beside you. I was a dancer once. Maybe I still am. Because some stages don't burn away. They follow you. And when the music finally stops, you bow to the past and let it take its last applause. A year later, a new video appeared online. Same stage, same lotus symbol, but this time, only one dancer. The caption read, "For Nisha, AW,